Hello, and welcome to Two Dads, One Show. Thank you so much for stopping by. I'm Tim.
I'm Grant.
We're the two dads, and this is the show.
Welcome back to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time today and bring it back for episode number 5. Can you believe it's number 5 already, Tim?
Unbelievable.
We made it. We haven't killed each other, so that's good.
It's been quite a ride.
I mean, there's been some moments, but we'll just kind of swim past those.
Absolutely. And if you won't mind, quickly, before we get into it, a quick Oscars recap, if I may.
Okay.
Parasite won, I think, almost everything. Eminem performed, and that is kind of what I took away from Twitter. So there you have it. Back to the show.
Yeah, I sure didn't watch it. I honestly I didn't know until Saturday before that it was on, and I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." I didn't watch it. I'm a big movie guy, and I was like, I don't really need to see it. Like, I don't know what it. Yeah,
you're a movie buff.
I am.
What's the best movie you've seen recently?
I honestly really liked Marriage Story.
Oh, okay.
It was depressing as all get out, but the performances were really good. So I enjoyed it. What about you?
So that's Adam Driver and ScarJo.
Yes.
Netflix original.
Mm-hmm. A Netflix joint.
And Netflix is doing things, man.
Well, they're putting $7 billion this year in original programming, so I'd hope they'd better.
Wow, is that all?
Well, yeah,
my favorite 1917 I saw recently. Really liked that.
I wanted to see that. It just looks so visually like something I'd want to see.
Yes. And did you see Birdman?
I did not.
So I don't know if you remember, but like the big thing was like one continuous shot.
Yeah.
Like that whole movie. So 1917, I think it was like maybe 2 or 3. So kind of similar like that, where it's like very long, very aesthetically and visually pleasing. But yeah, really cool. I really, really, really liked it. Highly recommend.
Okay. I'll watch it. I do want to watch Parasite, even though I'm not.
I do too. I know. Now that it won, I'm like, maybe let's see what all the fuss is about.
Well, I think, he said, the director at the Golden Globes, he's like, people don't watch foreign films because of the subtitles. And I mean, it's kind of a thing. Like, I have to watch it. Like, I have to read the thing while I'm watching a movie, and it's not the most convenient thing in the world, but I'm open to it, and I'm definitely gonna rent this thing. Possibly buy it. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to download it illegally and watch it. I can tell you that right now. That will not be happening.
No, not at all. I'll definitely be using a gift card of some sort, a coupon maybe out of the penny saver. Yeah. So what do we got going on today?
So today is going to be a little bit on the heavy side. It's going to be raw, going to be probably pretty powerful, but we are kind of talking about the subject of miscarriage.
Yeah, this is gonna be that one. I know we teased it, I think, in the first episode that this was gonna come, and it's here. So, yeah, I guess I'll ask you, Tim, off the bat. I know it's kind of a personal thing, but is this anything that you and your wife struggled with?
It is not, and really, I mean, we've had some really, really close friends that have, some family that has. But thankfully we personally have not. It's something that I don't know that I could handle. I mean, for those that have, we're finding out that it's a lot more common than I ever thought. But it's heartbreaking, for those that have gone through it or experienced it, you certainly know more than I hadn't. So back at you, what about you guys?
We unfortunately have had 2, and completely different the way that they happened.
Oh,
Um,
really?
yeah, and both happened before we actually successfully got pregnant. Um,
Oh, wow.
but it's crazy. You bring up like it is more common than I think people think, and I didn't really dive too deep into the study of miscarriage or loss or any of those things before it happened to us. But if I remember correctly, my wife had told me that it's as common as 1 in 4 women have a miscarriage,
Wow. I would have lost a bet for sure.
and I was astonished when I first heard that.
Yeah.
Um, and knowing that you kind of hear that maybe something had happened with someone, but you never like it's never talked about.
Right, right.
And I mean, I don't, having gone through it, you don't really want to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then, I mean, we'll get into this, but like that is the learning and talking about it. It helps greatly just
Mm.
getting through it. Um, and I mean, I think this is, I was telling you earlier that, um, just kind of jotting some stuff down even today, like finishing it out was just so emotional to like start this process of like, wow, we're gonna get into this.
I
Um,
bet. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
really it's for, I think the betterment of everyone, right? Like to know that there are people out there, there are stories that go along with it, and the
Yeah,
people do get
definitely.
through it, right?
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, so, I mean, can you kind of take us through, relive that and kind of, take us back to set the scene and kind of
sure.
go through, what all that looked like, how it played out?
Sure, yeah. So I guess we'll start with our first one. So this is
Okay.
um, before we actually successfully got pregnant with our oldest. We had kind of gone through the process of like, hey, we're gonna start trying, and about 3 months later, it was that you know sight of, oh, I think you're late, and then you take the test, and yeah,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, and then it's the initial like pregnancy stuff. You don't really know what's going on except there was a positive test, and uh, it's that whole excitement and unknown and all of that. And then, sure, I mean, relatively soon after, I would say 6 or 7 weeks pregnant, Charity started having the telltale signs, right? Um, Cramping and kind of all of that
Mm-hmm.
that you've seen in movies. I won't get into
Yeah.
the gory details. So we ended up going to the emergency room, and it was after all the tests and all that stuff. They were like, "Yes, this is a miscarriage," and um, to not really plan for that or to know that that was going
Sure.
to happen, you're just kind of like, okay. And it was kind of at like 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning that this happened. So we were like, okay, well, what would you do? And they can't really tell you much. Like we were kind of shocked, and they're like, well, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to do some blood tests and then we'll give you a call tomorrow. We said, okay. And so, we start kind of like going through it that day. Like, I don't understand how this happened and all of that, because you just don't know. And then we get a call the next day, and the doctor or nurse, I forget who it was like, hey, um, actually, you're still pregnant.
Wow.
And we're like, wait, excuse me, what? Um, so with the blood test, they do what's called an HCG test.
Okay.
And basically that number is supposed to double like every day. And if it's doubling as it should, after so many days, it's going to be in, whatever the count is in the hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
thousands. And then they're like, okay, this is a good pregnancy. So they're like, yeah, it actually went up. I'm like, well, I don't understand. How is that possible? You told us that there was the miscarriage and all the signs and all the stuff
Yeah.
yesterday. And they're like, no, you're still pregnant, but we need to get you in for like an ultrasound. I said, okay. So then we went in for an ultrasound, and they're like, oh yeah, there's not anything there. I'm like, I don't like,
Oh my gosh.
wait a second. Like now we're going through these highs and lows, right? Like
Yeah,
we
what a
were
roller
pregnant,
coaster.
yeah, and then not pregnant, and then pregnant again. And we're just like, I don't understand what's going on. And then um, they said it's what's called an ectopic pregnancy, um, which means your baby is basically not growing in the uterus; it's growing somewhere
Hmm.
else,
Oh wow.
and it can be very dangerous, right? Like it could be in places that you shouldn't be, and then it could
Mm.
rupture, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that can go to go with that. Uh, and basically, they did another blood test, and they're like, yeah, the levels are um, not rising. And it's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Like, what's kind of the next step? And so they said it's not a great kind of next step. So basically, Charity had to go um, and get a series of shots and blood work every 2 days
Oh man.
for the next 2 weeks. Like,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, just not a good, not good.
And so what were I'm guessing like the blood was to measure and kind of keep monitoring those levels.
Correct. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
what were the shots for?
Um, uh, without getting too crazy into it, basically
Hmm.
to finish the miscarriage
Mm. Oh wow.
was to help her body kind of
Okay.
uh, finish that.
Okay.
Um, and I think, and I have no idea because I don't know if this would have changed anything, but I wonder if it would have been better if it was just all at the beginning, just done, right? Like
Yeah.
at that initial
Yeah.
kind of go, but it was like over the next few weeks, like doing the oh wait, are the levels still going up, and still getting calls to where they're like, no, it's not, but we still need to keep doing
Wow.
this, and I'm like, okay, um, but it's like a real big punch to the gut, you know?
Oh man. Yeah. Total. Unbelievable. I think I mean, I can't even imagine too being told that like they did the first time you guys went in and then going, well, actually, nope. No, looks like it's, did they kind of like make you believe like, hey, no, everything's still good here, actually.
Well, I will say, well, it was funny that it honestly wasn't, but it was someone who had just called us to give us the lab results on the first day,
Okay.
didn't know everything else that had happened, and called like
Oh,
exuberantly, like,
no.
"Oh my God, you're pregnant!" And we're like, "What are you
Oh,
talking about?" So it was just a whole like, I don't like, it was just bad because obviously we're not at that point, or it's not
right.
a viable pregnancy at that point. And to have
Wow.
someone who didn't know, and it's not their fault, like they didn't know,
Right.
right? Like
Right.
they're having being told to call someone with test results, right? And uh, I don't blame that person by any means, but um, yeah, it was just a whole kind of series of calamitous
Wow.
events, right? Um, but I just didn't know how that was personally. I didn't know how that was gonna affect me, like emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I didn't know what to do. Like I didn't know what to do. But also, like, Charity and I, um, were just kind of floating, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just
Mm-hmm.
kind of going from one day to another. Um, your emotions would be up, they'd be down, they'd be all over the place, and you just like, I didn't know at the time that was grief, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't experienced a lot of that in my life up until that point. But it was most certainly like just straight grief. But trying to like push that down, it makes it worse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and I mean, I look back on it now, and we were both severely depressed at that point. Like you just
Wow.
were, but I didn't know. Like I didn't know what that
Yeah.
was.
Right.
Um, and we live in Idaho now, and at the time we had recently moved up to Idaho, but our family was still in California. And it was a few days, maybe a week before Christmas, and I could just tell like we're just not doing okay. Like we're just
Mm-hmm.
not. So I called up
Yeah.
reached out to my brother-in-law and was like, hey, like, can we, I know it's right before Christmas, can we come and see you like tomorrow? Like, we're going to jump in a car,
Mm.
and it's like a 15-hour drive. Like, we're going to
Oh, wow.
drive. We're going to drive to you because we need to be around people.
Yeah.
Um, and he's like, of course, my brother and sister-in-law were fantastic. And
And during this call, did they know why? Did they know?
yes,
Had
yeah,
you guys okay. Okay.
they knew that, that the miscarriage had happened, and
Okay.
they knew that we were struggling, but not really understanding because weren't seeing anybody that knew us. Like, we go to work,
Yeah.
and you put on a
Yeah.
face when you're at work and all those things, but
Right.
like, you're not around a lot of people that can like really look out for you. So it was more of kind of like, it's bad when you still start self-realizing what's going on.
Mhm.
And you're like, yeah, I
Yeah.
think we need to do something. So we ended up driving down, and we're around people, and that helped, kind of.
Yeah.
um Helped a little bit, but it didn't really do anything,
Hmm.
which, yeah, it's really tough to think about it now, you know um
Yeah.
but when we got
So,
back, sorry, go ahead.
no, 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 please go.
I was just gonna say, when we got back, we had like we slipped right back into it. But when we had
Oh,
when we
gotcha.
had seen what we were outside, we're like, okay, something's, like, we realized, like,
Hmm.
okay, something's going on here.
Yeah.
So we like sat down, we're like, what are we gonna do? Like what's going on? Like, how do we do this? And it was like me realizing for myself, like, when grieving, like, you have to recognize it, and you have to, like,
Yeah.
say, this is what's happening. um and we're like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do now? And we thought the best way to start was to recognize that we had lost a baby.
Mm.
And we sat there and we thought, what did we think this baby was going to be? And we both, like, without stopping or asking or writing it down, we were both like, we thought this baby was going to be a girl. Okay, so that's step one. We thought we were going to have a girl. Okay, that's awesome. And then we thought naming her would be the most appropriate thing,
Hmm.
because you can then like a put like a personality or a person around that, if that makes
Sure.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it helped because then we could, like, talk to her, like, like, tell her, like, it's gonna be okay,
Hmm.
like, we love you, and we're sorry you couldn't be here, and we did those things, and it honestly helped. Like, it really, really did.
That's and that's actually thinking about it now. That's the how I learned what miscarriage was. I had a really, really close friend growing up, and it was Christmas time, and my friend had a brother, and on their fireplace there was an extra stocking with a name that wasn't his or his brother's, and I was like, "Whose stocking is that?" And he said, "Oh, that would have been, I mean, that's for my brother." And I was like, "No, that's your brother. That name over there." And he goes, "No,
Yeah.
he was never born." Went home and asked my mom about miscarriage, and kind of learned about it then. But that was my first exposure to it. And it was just, kind of going back to the thing that it's not really talked about. It's kind of taboo.
Mm-hmm.
But but kind of circling back to, assigning a name, and that seems to be, I can see how that totally, totally helps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, so that's huge.
Yeah, it was one of those things that, like, we got her like an ornament with her name on for the tree, you know.
That's cool. Yeah.
Um, so when when our first daughter was born, we put a shadow box of. So I know this is probably going to sound really silly, but when uh, when Charity has gotten pregnant with our kids, um, I get a blanket, like a baby blanket, and I'll sleep with it until they're born, so that when
Mm.
they come out, like, and when they get brought home and laid on the ground and all those things and all those, they'll have a blanket that smells like me.
Mm-hmm. It's
So
cool.
it's just something that I thought would be fun. So
Yeah.
we had done that for this baby, and obviously she was never going to be able to have that. So we actually ended up making a shadow box and putting the blanket in there and putting like the pregnancy test in there
Oh
and
wow.
stuff like that, and
Oh,
put it in our oldest room so
that's
that
really cool.
she could be there with her. That,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So have you guys has that conversation happened yet? I mean, has your oldest kind of asked or like has that happened?
No, no, that hasn't happened, and
Okay.
I mean, it will. So like,
Yeah.
Charity has a necklace that has the girls' names on it, and
Oh,
those names are on there as well.
cool.
So like,
Very cool.
that's there. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the healing process. And obviously it's never gonna be easy,
Right.
but it helps. Like,
Hmm.
we wanted
Hmm.
that baby, and we
Yeah.
wanted that. It wasn't like we never wanted her, and it didn't mean anything to us, and we wanted her, so that's it meant more, I
Right.
guess.
Right.
Um, but then we had a wonderful baby after her, and she's fantastic. She's almost 4, and she's crazy and wonderful and sweet and all those things. But you still want that other one too.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me ask you this, just out of my own curiosity, and I don't mean to, I don't think it's insensitive. Um, so when you guys were pregnant again with
Hmm.
your oldest now, does it does there kind of does the fear kind of creep in of like is it kind of in the back of your mind like this might happen again type of deal, or do you try
Absolutely,
to did okay.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, uh, yes, yeah. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
I would
Like,
think
yeah.
that, yeah, just kind of thinking how I think I'd probably be a complete nutcase of like, I would be probably overwhelmed with like kind of worry the
Hmm.
entire time.
No, and that really that we were like we bought like over the counter like heart monitoring stuff where we could put on like headphones and like listen and
Oh,
make sure everything was
wow.
okay, and um
Wow.
getting past the what is it, the first trimester is the biggest,
Hmm.
one of the biggest
Yeah.
hurdles, and getting
Yeah.
there and then getting to 20 weeks to see the anatomy scan and kind of all those things.
Hmm.
It never like went away that this is a for sure thing.
Right.
Like, this is
Yeah.
it's in the bag, like,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
it, so once we had our oldest, right, we started, after a year, started trying again. Like, okay, like, we got, let's continue kind of growing our family, and
Hmm.
um we were more cautious, obviously. This, you would think we would be. So
Hmm.
there's more. uh so when we found out, um Charity was about 5 weeks, and we had gone in and talked to Charity's OB, and she was like, okay, like, we need to be more on top of this, right? Like, now that this has happened once, like, let's,
Hmm.
as soon as you guys take a test, like, come in immediately, and we'll kind of do scans and kind of all those things, right? She's great. Our OB is fantastic. And we did, like, at 5 weeks we found out, and we were in there, they were doing ultrasounds, and she's like, okay, everything's looking good, right? Baby's where it should be, we're right where we need to be. All right, sweet. So we make another appointment for our 10-week appointment. um and we go in there, and we're all talking with the OB, and we're just like, oh, this is so exciting. We hear the heartbeat, all these things, and um, it had been a normal pregnancy up to that point. There's nothing, like
Mm-hmm. Okay.
nothing amiss. All the same kind of things were coming back that are the indicators of pregnancy as they were with our oldest, and we're like, okay, cool. Like this is so yeah, no issues, and we go in there and do the ultrasound, and mm, there was a baby, but it had stopped growing.
Hmm.
Um, and we're like, well, this it was basically like this same size as when we had gone in originally.
Oh,
And we're like, oh, like the mood just, I mean, was decimated in that room. We had
I bet.
been so happy, and it's just like, wait, what? What do you mean? So then it's ruled, miscarriage at that point. But the baby is still there, and Charity's body's still doing the thing it needs to do. Um, so basically, at that point, it was you let it happen naturally. The body is going to decide or realize, hey, there's nothing here, um, or at some point we're gonna have to, you know, surgery is gonna have to happen
Wow.
if it doesn't actually do what it needs to do. And there was no, her body was still thinking it's pregnant, basically. Um, and that is not great considering there's still sickness that goes along with it. There's still the aversion to food.
Mm.
There's all these things that emotional anticipation, knowing that this is going to happen. Like
Right.
there
Yeah.
is there's no like, I wonder if, like, no, this is going to happen, and it can happen literally at any time.
Jeez.
And it was just like there's like
Oh,
anxiety that goes with that, right?
yeah.
But
I bet.
still trying to maintain, like, we have an 18-month-old at this point ish.
Hmm.
16-month-old, she was, over a year. And we're like, what, like, we got to still be there for her, and but still be dealing with this. And um finally, it was, Charity had she's, well, at the time was a teacher, an elementary school teacher, and it was like, hey, like, I'm about to start school, like we got to decide. So it was decided to do a surgery to kind
Mm.
of help, which is not a, it's not a great decision or an easy decision to make, because there's complications that can come along with that. Um, and it was, okay, now we got to do this, and it was it was the right course of action, but it was tough. It was very tough. Um, but probably my, so the surgery was scheduled, and the surgery was, getting ready to go. And but the problem is that we didn't have anybody living here at the time with us. So
Okay.
we have a, year and a half year old, and
Mm.
Charity's surgery was scheduled for like 7:30 in the morning. So we had to make the decision to, she had to take a lift to go to the
Wow.
hospital so that I could
Mm.
then get up our daughter, take her to daycare, and then meet her there once she's already in surgery.
Wow.
That was like, uh, it's one of the biggest like regrets, or I don't know how you want to say it, of my life, because I can't be there for
Right.
her, right?
Right.
And I get to the hospital, and she was already in there. She was already in surgery, and then like 30 minutes later, they came and got me, and she had just come out, and was groggy and kind of all that. And then it's just like, like, this happened again, and then
Right.
we we had a better understanding of what, things we can do, and how to cope, and talking.
Right.
And we did the same thing of like we did with the first, of, okay, like, what did we think this baby was going to be? And we both said, this
Yeah.
is
Okay.
this is going to be a girl. Like, we just knew she was going to be a girl. And
Wow.
yeah, did the whole thing of, we named her. And it was just, it, it's never easy, but going through it the first time, we knew better what to do, like the actual
Okay. Yeah. Hmm.
logistics of it, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's just they're both completely different. They happened completely different, and what transpired with them was completely different. But in the end, we were still losing a baby, right?
Right. Yeah.
So it's just
Wow.
it's heavy, you know. It's
It is for sure.
hard. It's hard, really hard.
Wow. So let me ask you this kind of, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing that. That I can't imagine that being easy.
Of course.
That was really, really good. So yeah, again, thank you. That was really powerful stuff.
Hmm.
What would you kind of, if you could say, hey, someone listening or someone that knows someone that may have just experienced this for the first time and maybe, like an isolated couple like you guys were without kind of that family support close, what would you suggest as far as, obviously everyone grieves differently, but kind of getting into that process of letting that like play out, what advice would you give to someone, going through this?
Um, so there's two. I'll give you two answers, right?
Okay.
From the person who's actually going through it, or the couple, the people, partners, whoever's going
Hmm.
through it. You gotta talk about it. I recommend getting a therapist, something. Talk to a minister if you are religious, or a
Yeah.
priest or whatever. But you gotta be able to to acknowledge the hurt that's going on.
Hmm.
Like that was the biggest thing for me, and I don't want to speak for my wife on that. Is I didn't acknowledge because I didn't understand it, right?
Sure. Yeah, it
Um,
makes sense.
which was a giant piece. But on the flip of that, for people that are trying to be there for someone who, a friend, a family member, whatever, that is going through that, um, just being there
Hmm.
and letting them know that you're available if they need something is really all that's it. I had some people um, try to not make light of the situation, but try to say things that they thought was helpful,
Okay.
but was absolutely the wrong thing to say to me
Sure.
personally. Like I
Yeah.
don't mean
Yeah.
like I'm not saying that this is what's for everybody, but like
Yeah.
for example, I have two examples. Uh, the first one was, at least you know you can get pregnant.
Wow. Jeez.
Okay, consolation prize. Like that was
Wow.
terrible. And then
Yeah.
the for me the worst one was, now you can get back to the fun part.
Oh man.
And I was,
Yikes.
yeah, just like don't I
Oh man.
and I understand. I'm an understanding person, knowing that that is coming from a good spot. You don't know what to say. It's an awkward thing. Um, and it wasn't like I was shouting it from the rooftops what had happened, but people that knew are
Hmm.
straight out asking, and you need to be able to say it. Um,
Yeah.
but just don't say anything. Like it would be
Yeah.
so much better to just leave it be and not say
Right.
anything, and just say whatever you need. Let me know. You want
Right.
us to, you know, send you some food or something. Just more,
Yeah.
just less is more. I think.
I think that's a really good way to put it because I know in my experience, I've I've kind of made sure that I've not said anything,
Hmm.
um, just because, again, like we've said, everyone handles it differently. And number two, to make sure that anything that I would mean for good like wouldn't accidentally be taken the wrong way. So I've kind of just steered to the direction of like not saying anything. Um, but I think what you just said of if just asking and letting them know kind of does two things. You're not going to get anything wrong by saying, "Hey, I'm so sorry. I'm here for you. Let me know if I can help anything." And it
Hmm.
also lets them know that you're there and there's someone there helping and being there in it with them. So that's huge for me. Like that, I will use that now.
For sure.
Um, you know, that's really really good advice. Because I've kind of done it where you know if like a scenario of you see a lady that may look pregnant, like I will never ever assume
Sure.
that she's pregnant, that type of deal. So
Yeah.
kind of in those situations, even with anything really, personal or anything sensitive, I rather just not so that I don't hurt them or say
Hmm.
anything stupid or, but I think posing it that way kind of allows you to offer, condolence and a gesture and reach out to them with no chance of, anything going awry. So that's really cool.
Yeah. No, I think I think it's just like you have to try and put yourselves in someone's shoes without actually ever being through it. Like at
Yeah.
some point, at some point, everybody feels grief, and just knowing like how you felt when that grief is going on, you lost a family member, a close friend, whatever it is, and knowing that that's what it is. Like for most people, that's how it feels. And I can't speak for everybody. I'm just knowing
Yeah.
that the experience that I went through of that's how it felt. Like you lose someone, and just
Yeah.
understanding that being there for someone is good, and you don't know what to say all the time, and that's okay. And just being there, like physically being there, and being like, hey, we can just sit here. So I think that's really kind of the main takeaway is just be there for someone. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
so and again, like this is my story, and if it helps just one person, that's amazing. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's just kind of why this kind of came about.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was really good, man. And I think it's going to have a ripple effect because I mean, I've already taken something from it that now I can kind of better help someone else deal with it,
Hmm.
by kind of being more available and better there for whoever that might happen to if it should. So yeah, I think it's going to help a ton of people.
I love that. Good. And to kind of give a preview for everyone before we kind of do our what we learned from the week. My wife is actually going to kind of give her side and her perspective of it on the next
Mm,
kind of episode, and um, kind of you'll have my piece and then her piece, and just hopefully this will help anybody out there that's kind of been through this before.
yeah,
So
love that.
yeah,
Very cool.
yeah.
Very cool.
So I know I dominated this one, but I think it was for a good reason. But how um, how how did your week go? Did you learn anything? Did you come across anything that you can kind of share?
Yeah, I did. I had kind of a realization. I was playing an animal party with my daughter, which is she just gets out animals and lines them up, and she has like these ice cream cones, and then randomly one of the animals gets it's their birthday, and everyone gets ice cream cones.
Okay.
But I had been on my phone. We had played this two times in one day. And the first time I was kind of on my phone and I was kind of like, Dad, I watched, no, this part, this part. And I felt good, like knowing like, oh, it was just, obviously something that could have and should have waited. And so the second time we played, I made sure to leave my phone. I didn't even take it into her playroom. And as we started playing, she would be kind of focusing on the toys, but I could see every maybe 20 or 30 seconds she would peek at me to make sure that I was still looking and like focused on it and not on
Mm.
my phone. And when she saw that I was kind of undivided, like on her, like there was like a little, like a spark of like a joy, just kind of a smile, and then she'd kind of go back to playing. But my big takeaway was that, and again, not even for your kids, but for your spouse, for your family, for your friends, for your coworkers, give people like your undivided attention. And it's kind of
Mm.
cliche now, like be present, but especially with kids, when you let them know that like they are way more important than anything else going on. Um, like I kind of saw it firsthand today, and it was pretty cool to see.
That's such a good one. Like that is such a good one. I talk about that all the time with like my wife and stuff. It's like
Yeah, it's hard to
it's
do. I mean,
hard.
because you
Yeah.
have to be really intentional about it
Hmm.
because I mean your whole world's on your phone and your phone's always with you and the stuff's happening and you got to get back to this and the email. I mean, it's hard to do.
For sure. It is. But
Yeah.
I think that's a great reminder that being in the moment is
Hmm.
so powerful.
Yeah.
You know, I think so. I think for me, so my kind of big takeaway from this week is, um, the smallest things can bring the most joy.
Mm.
Right. So my youngest, she is 14 months old. Uh, so for people, a year and 2 months. I'll break that down. It's like military time. Um, and uh, she has found blankets because she doesn't sleep
Mm.
with a blanket. She doesn't do any. Like, we keep the blankets out of her bed right now. She thinks she's still too young, personally. But like my oldest has blankets everywhere, and my wife loves blankets. So there's blankets all over the place, and we started putting them on the grounds for when she's like kind of crawling around, and
Hmm.
man, she just lays on them and just has the biggest smile on her face.
That's cool.
And we started like laying down on the same blanket with her, and then she'll like come over and like push on our arms and like pull on us, and it's the simplest things that
Yeah,
just, I mean, the look on her face, it just lights her up.
that's
And
really
it's just remembering that just those simple things, get on the floor with your kids,
right.
right? Like get on the floor and play with them. Like, it doesn't need to be sophisticated play and you need to do that. Just get on the floor and roll around with them.
Yeah, totally.
And
Yeah,
it's a huge thing. It's a huge plus.
very cool. Very cool. I like that a lot.
Good. So, well, another one is in the books, my friend, and to everyone out there, thank you for coming by and listening to the story today. And I hope that that it helps you in some way, or it helps you interact with someone that is going through something. But please continue to stay with us. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, any of the major ones out there. We're on all of them. Visit our website at twodads1show.com. Our Instagram is where we're posting stuff all the time. Two Dads One Show podcast, and even Twitter is Two Dads One Show. And just come by, ask us questions. We want to hear from you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.